It's just like agony. And then you see the other dude. Oh shit. Just like rips it. Let's go.
Just because his brother did. He's like, wait, what? Oh, okay.
Let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to Nerd Taku Podcast, where we watch it so you don't have to. I'm your host, Eli. With me is my co-host, Ben.
Hello, listeners. How's it going?
This week, we'll be reviewing the 2014 Disney musical Into the Woods. Spoiler warnings ahead. Ben, I know I ask you every week, but are there spoilers?
Absolutely.
Director, Rob Marshall. Main cast, Emily Blunt, James Corden, Meryl Streep, Anna Kendrick, Daniel Huddlestone, Lilla Crawford. When I started watching this film, recently I just saw the play in a local theater. That's why I was like super interested to see what the differences was. And I really did enjoy the performance that I saw there. So I was really looking for something for me personally to like get me excited for this. I was super pumped to see what was going to happen. But I'm going to honestly say, I thought the play was much a better performance than the film. What was your overall feeling about this movie, Ben?
I have always been very interested in musicals, and I kind of thought that it would be a pretty fun story to mix all the different Grimm tales into one storyline to make some different story than what we're used to. I went into it expecting a lot, came out with, it was good, but not quite as hyped as I was hoping it to be.
So when I watched this, I overall gave this a 6.5.
My overall is a 7.5.
Okay, for people who don't know what Into the Woods is, the synopsis is a witch takes a childless baker and his wife with procuring magical items from classic fairy tales to reverse the curse put on their family tree. It is based on the Grimm Tale stories. They take it from those stories. These aren't your original Disney stories. And I feel like this film was it was lacking. So let's get into this. Let's start with plot.
That got a 0.75.
That got a 0.75 from me as well. Why would you give it a 0.75?
I enjoyed how they took several different stories and mashed them together. The way that they all kind of came together. One story plot had the witch and the baker. Then you had Red Riding Hood. Then you had Jack the Beanstalk. Then you had Cinderella, Rapunzel. They all had their different stories that as the show progressed, they all kind of intertwined and connected. There's just some little things that bothered me, like the flow of the plot was a little too quick. And when Jack is running with 5 gold coins that he had taken from the giant. You ever held a gold block?
That's heavy as shit.
It's heavy as shit.
Yeah.
These freaking things are as big as their abdomens, and they didn't show any struggle in carrying them at all. Jack was running through the woods easily with this bag of coins, 5 gold coins as big as him, and he could still make it from the beanstalk to the baker. Same with the golden egg and the golden harp. Also, Jack chopped down the beanstalk in seconds.
Yeah.
That thing was thick as fuck. And he gets to the bottom. The giant's right on top of him, finds the axe, and then 10 seconds later, that freaking beanstalk comes down. Jack is a tiny little boy, like 12 years old at most, and somehow he gets that beanstalk chopped in seconds. There's a few things in the plot that just irked me. I liked how the stories came together. There's little details that they could have put a little more emphasis on, especially the gold coins. Those things would have been heavy as fuck. There's no way they could have just ran around with them like nothing.
I felt the plot was a little rushed. I felt like in some instances of this story that they were just pushing the plot really quickly with some situations. One of them was in this movie, they did the scene where the witch made the thorns and the guy was riding the horse and he fell into the thorns. If you took it from when I saw the play, the actual story was she cut the hair off and actually like was there waiting for him. I know during the plot they have to change some things to make this time crunch work and the story work, but I felt like they were pushing the story a little fast. They were pushing it to a point where it just didn't flow well with me. Like you said, the unrealistic things about the gold coins, that harp would have been heavy as hell. It was the size of the child almost.
Mm-hmm.
The golden egg. I don't know what realm you think a golden egg weighs 2 pounds, but it doesn't weigh 2 pounds. That probably weighed like 100 pounds, and that kid it was a miracle. I did like the princess plot lines. They were really funny. The song Agony.
I forgot how much I loved the song Agony until I watched it again. I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I like it.
I love that he rips the shirt and then the other guy goes,
Agony.
but then the other guy
looks at him. He's like, what?
so the plot was okay. I just didn't like the inconsistencies and the pacing was not there.
I agree. It was pretty rushed.
The beginning with the baker and the witch and the wife, it just like, go to the woods. And his father was really in the play. The father's there throughout the story, but like he was there at the end. So the plot, I'm like, that ruins it. He was a very main guy in the play. So I got to give the 0.75.
Yeah, a lot of the time the movies have to change quite a bit of the plot line to push it differently.
See,
I agree. The father was a big major part of it. That's how they find out in the play. The witch doesn't tell them that it was the father. The father tells them that it was him who caused the curse.
yeah. And with the runtime of this film, I would expect it a little more. The play is only 2.5 hours, 2:45. They could have done that with this.
Oh, definitely. Instead they had the father be a ghost when he needed him.
Yeah, which was at the end when it was like, wow, that's awful. That's kind of lackluster.
After his wife falls off the cliff and he finds out that she died, that's when dad comes in because he's thinking of giving up. He hands the baby over to Cinderella and dad says, don't be like me, be with your family, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
An emotional boost towards the baker, but he was like that throughout the entire story in the actual play. So they should have kept that part in.
Yeah. Acting.
0.5.
0.5 as well. I'm going to say this. It's a controversial topic. I hated Meryl Streep. I hated her.
I didn't hate her. I just thought it was over the top. Way over the top.
I agree with you there. The over the topness, it was so there. It felt forced. It felt rushed. It felt like she never gave time for the script. Her acting was, her singing was really good. I liked her singing. It was just the fact that she pushed that character so hard and over the top that it became almost a repellent in any scene she was in. I hated any scene with Rapunzel and her because she was doing that scene of like, and she was like crying and it was like, oh, this is uncomfortable to the point where I just see myself just cringing. No, don't force it. Make it more natural. Just because you look ugly doesn't mean you have to be a crockety old over the top woman. She just did not do justice to that role. But everyone else was not bad. Little Red was a little shit, straight up. Little Red was annoying, but that's what Little Red is in stories. She's absolutely kind of the worst. Jack liked the kid. He was good in Les Mis, but overall he was okay. His mom, I couldn't stand her because of the fact that she sounded like that girl from Sweeney Todd. The
Helena Bonham Carter.
Yeah, she sounded like her exactly. And I was just like, no, stop. I'm not watching Sweeney Todd. That's a great film. Stop.
Speaking of Sweeney Todd, now that you bring it up, Johnny Depp had a tiny, tiny part. They featured him in the trailers and then he had 2 scenes. And I just felt very creepy, stalkerish, pedophile vibes from him when he was singing about eating Little Red.
That was uncomfortable. That was cringy.
I was like, I don't know if I like that.
I don't know how I felt with the whole attitude with him as well. If you're going to put him there as like one of your top 6 actors, make him something more than 10 minutes.
Right?
That was just awful. Best 3. I'm going to give my best 3. Emily Blunt, Anna Kendrick, Chris Pine. There you go. I said it. That's what I believe. Those 3 were the best in the movie.
I would agree with Emily Blunt, Anna Kendrick, but I would put James Corden over Chris Pine.
Why is that?
Because he did a very impressive job portraying a man who's trying to save his family, get a family started, and going through all these trials, trying to protect his wife, trying to get his wife to go home. She just won't listen, ends up saying, yes, okay, you can come with me, and then blames himself when she falls. He portrays the sadness that he feels beautifully. I thought that the way that he brought out the baker, you could really connect with. So I have to put him in the top 3.
Okay. I can see where you're coming from. So I agree with you there. Chris Pine's
Chris
four
Pine,
is
Chris
four.
Pine, he was there. He played the prince as this upkept, very strong-willed man, but his part wasn't necessary to the story really as much as James Corden was.
Yes, and I do agree with you there.
Also, I feel like the reason it got a 0.5 was because I'm going to go back to Meryl Streep. Very forced. I feel like she brought her knowledge of musicals from Mamma Mia into this as well.
Yes, I
She
totally
she
agree.
kept she kept her same facade, her same basic musical acting from Mamma Mia and just swung it over and mixed the character up a little bit just to make it match the story more than Mamma Mia. But it felt like I was watching the same person, which you're not supposed to. She's not a character actor. Meryl Streep has a very wide variety, and the way she brought this out was very character actor like. She just took what she did for Mamma Mia, brought it in, and switched it just a bit to make it more witchy.
Character development.
That one did get a 1.
I gave it a 0.5.
Explain.
The only character to me that really showed true development was the baker. He went through some of the biggest struggles ever. He went from trying to get a kid, then he figured out how to get the kid, and then he did it, but then the wife died, and he went through this hardship of, I don't want to be a parent without my wife. And then you see that scene where Emily Blunt's singing to him while trying to hold the child, and he's trying to be a great dad, and not really anyone else had character development. The prince didn't have character development. I didn't think Cinderella really had character development in aspects of she learned to be independent, but I didn't see it. And Emily Blunt, really, she was digressing with the fact that she cheated on her husband. Like, she cheated and then she died because she fell off the ledge because she was so torn in the woods. And then Little Red, no, there was some development, but not enough there. And then I didn't see Jack really. He developed to a certain degree because of the baker. And I just didn't find Meryl Streep, her character, the witch, fully developed, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, I don't agree with Cinderella not developing, nor do I agree with Little Red not developing. Yes, the baker had the most. You're correct. That was the point. He was the main focus of the entire story. It was all about getting his family started. But Cinderella found that what she thought she wanted, she didn't really need. She found her independence. She found that the life that she lived with her sisters and her stepmother was what she actually wanted. Not to the degree that she was a servant or a slave, but she wanted to have a real family that she could connect with, and she found that at the end when she decided that she was going to leave the prince because what he wanted was completely different than what she wanted, and she decided that she was going to live with the baker and Red Riding Hood and Jack because Jack lost his mom, Little Red lost her mother and her grandmother, so they all decided to live together. Little Red was this uppity, all about me, not about anybody else attitude, and then when Meryl Streep said, "We will find the boy and we're going to sacrifice him," Little Red found the courage to face Meryl Streep and tell her, "No, we're not sacrificing Jack," even though she hardly even knew Jack. Before, it was all about her, all about me. She went into the baker's place, ate all the cookies that she got, ate all the sweets that she was supposed to take to her grandma. It was always all about her until she got cut out of the wolf by the baker. Then throughout, she started to realize it's not all about me. We're going to protect Jack. We're going to protect this baby. We're going to get through this when the giant is attacking. Jack had development through after his mother's death. He figured out the value of life. He wanted to go ahead and sacrifice himself for the greater good of everybody, and they convinced him not to, but they did convince him to be bait to help stop the giant. There was quite a bit of development in this story. There were a few, like Emily Blunt. Yeah, she didn't develop. She regressed. You're right. Obviously, Chris Pine didn't have development. He was still the uppity prince that he was at the beginning. There was nothing there. But the main focus that they needed was Cinderella, James Corden, and the two kids. They developed really well throughout the story. So I felt it deserved a 1.
I see where you're coming from. I changed mine to a 0.75. I still feel like Emily Blunt, her character being one of the mains up till the end, it kind of needed to be there. There had to be some progression, and I didn't like that. And so I'm going to keep it at a 0.75 because Meryl Streep being the witch as well, her development was...
There was no development.
Yeah, there was no development.
It was regression throughout.
Yeah, so that's why I'm giving the 0.75.
Understandable.
Sound and music.
I gave that a 1.
This is the only one I gave through this whole thing. I will say that. It was actually a really good score. The music was really good. I really liked it. Everyone had a good voice. I will say that. Everyone's voices were very clean and very well understood. I will say overall, I did enjoy the songs to a certain degree.
I agree. I love how they brought in several different stories, all of them having different thoughts, and basically everything they had said was through song. There was very little dialogue, which is what a musical is, but there's
Mhm.
still some dialogue. This one had very little dialogue, but enough music to connect the story. It's hard to explain, but it was very well done. It's beautiful music, wonderful score. The voices were great. The kids, you don't expect a lot, but they can actually sing. They're really good. Even though Meryl Streep had brought her Mamma Mia character into the story and it just didn't match her personality, she brought out a beautiful voice, one that still kept you interested into the story enough to finish it. There was just a lot in there that pulled you in via voices. And even though Johnny Depp had that creepy song, just because of his voice, it makes you listen.
Cinematography and animation.
0.5.
I almost gave this a 0.25, but it's a 0.5.
Yeah, I felt like I was being generous.
I was being super generous. For the budget it had as a film, $140 million. No, $150 million. It was $15 million short from the best film of the year, Interstellar. I'm sorry. Disney, what are you doing? Meryl Streep at the end when she is turning into this vortex and going into the ground and disappearing, why did she look so CGI'd that I was looking at Scorpion King?
That's
I'm-
exactly what I was saying.
I
Yes.
looked like It looks like Scorpion King with Meryl Streep. And I'm like, why is she looking animated already, guys? You should not be having her look animated. And then they try to use bright visuals to distract the audience with, oh my gosh, we're going to tumble in. And boom. Also, camera shots, not the greatest. I didn't like the baker and his wife, that whole song they were singing. It was a nice little like back and forth in the trees and sliding down. But what the fuck was that lighting in that woods? What the fuck? It was so dark. I understand you're trying to make a suspenseful woods, but get some lighting in there. There is more lighting than you can think. Come on, people. I was looking at black shade on black shade on black shades. It was weird. Some of the camera angles didn't make sense. I didn't like the fact that when they brought the thorns in, it looked like they were using 3D Maya software program. The guy fell in and he got smaller when he got into the pile. It looked like they shrunk him. So overall, this film, for the budget it had, I'm sorry, you should have been up in the high standards of great cinema. This was not greatly shot. This was absolutely atrocious in my opinion, and one of the worst shot films to me I've seen in a while. Yes, we had a great cast. Yes, we had great music. But the thing is, this film needed the cinematography, and the CGI made it just worse.
I can't say anything else. You're right. There's only one other thing I can add. The fucking giant. You had so much money to work with, and all you did was take the person who played the giant, made him bigger, but you didn't even show much of anything. It's so dark shaded and off camera. Just show me the giant. They had the money to do it, but they just decided not to.
What really was offensive was, remember the lady from the fourth Harry Potter movie, the head mistress from that all-girls school?
Yep.
Used her.
Yeah.
I understand she's a tall woman, but come on. That's like shortchaining her just to get her a cheap role, in my opinion.
Even so,
It looked bad.
it was terrible. It was blurry. It was out of focus. They could have done so much more showing a giant, but all they did was give you a half shot of her every time she was on screen. And even then, it was a blurry shot. You couldn't see any detail. You had to really focus on the face to even tell who the person was. You couldn't see anything. I didn't understand why they went with that approach. It saddened my heart. I was like, come on, guys. You have the money. Make this better. Disney can do better.
Disney can do so much better. Directing,
That one did get a 1.
0.75.
I had to give it a 1 because you're taking Red Riding Hood, Rapunzel, Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, Baker and his wife, and the witch, making it all into one story that correlate together. You have a way that you have to make every single one of those mesh in one story that is focused in these woods, and The main plot story was the baker and his wife trying to get a child and the witch. Then all these other side plots form into this one to make it so that the baker and the wife can finish the spell. To do that is not easy. So the direction that Rob Marshall took to make sure that this all made sense in the end was very well done. The only thing he could have really improved was trying to get Meryl Streep to bring her own character into this rather than bring a previous character in and mix it a little bit. It had to flow quicker just because it's a movie. They have to do things different than the play. The way he directed our Baker, the way he had James Corden bring his character out, connected us to him. Anna Kendrick did a really good job as Cinderella, trying to connect with her and wanting to find her independence. Even getting Little Red to go from this it's all about me type character to caring for Jack. You saw it, you felt it. It was pushed well. There was more that he did good than bad. The flow and Meryl Streep are the two things that I would say were the most problematic in this storyline.
I agree with you that he did a lot of good. I do like his previous works. He did direct Chicago, another great musical. That's one of the best filmed musicals that is in this century. Chicago is one of the best. But the inconsistencies with the flow of the plot wasn't great. And with the storylines, yes, he did try to mingle so many storylines, and that's a challenge by itself. Doing one, maybe two storylines, that's challenging by itself. And I give him the props for it. But when you're mingling so much, you can see the flow becoming a little bumpy. And that's why I couldn't give it the one, because it was bumpy. There was the bumpy road. He did great. Don't get me wrong. He was doing great. And the fact that he had to deal with Meryl Streep, that says volumes, because that must have been a real challenge for someone who was overplaying the character. So I give him the 0.75 for the great job he was doing with trying to mend all these, but the bumpiness of the flow was just not there for me. Attraction.
0.75.
0.5.
Why?
Meryl Streep, that beginning, that was very off-putting. It was that much of a little bit of a problem for me. Meryl Streep would have made me turn this off. I do like Into the Woods overall, but Meryl Streep just was overplaying it, and I don't like that. I don't like people forcing it to the point where it becomes uncomfortable or like becomes very distasteful. She was trying to bring another character in that she did amazing at back 6 years prior, and the attraction wasn't there. Once I started watching it more, I forgot about her. Once she left the screen, I loved it. But throughout every scene she was in, I was just not excited for her to be on camera.
I get it. That's why I gave it the 0.75, because I enjoyed the plot of 7 different storylines coming in. I enjoyed the acting for the most part. Character development was great. Sound and music was amazing. Directing, I felt he did the best he could with trying to bring in all these different stories. There was so much to it that overpowered the fact that Meryl Streep was too much. Realistically, I'd say it got a 0.6. Let's but
Yeah.
since we're doing 0.25 scale, I felt like it was well enough that a 0.75 is justified in our scale system.
I see where you're coming from. I do. Dialogue.
That got a 0.75.
That got a 0.75 as well. Ben, what kind of quotes did you get from this one? Is there any like eye-popping ones that you saw?
No, to be honest, the only things I found that I enjoyed was a few things that made me laugh. Nothing really stuck out because it was all a bunch of music. And like nothing wrong with that. Obviously, it's a musical. I loved it, but there's no real hitting quotes that made it a 1. There were a few that made me laugh, like after the prince falls into the thorns and Rapunzel cries on his eyes. And it makes him heal, and he can see. He says, "Rapunzel, I can see you." And then the way he delivers "your hair," because it was really long, right? And he's just like, "Your hair." They kiss, and then he's like, "I like it."
Yeah.
It made me chuckle. And then another thing is Prince Charming, who married Cinderella, is talking with Cinderella, and he's like, "I was raised to be charming, not sincere," because Cinderella is speaking with him and saying, "This is how I feel. You're not faithful." And he's like, "Well, I was raised to be charming, not sincere." Kind of really shows what kind of character that prince is.
Yeah.
Just that one line. But really, other than that, most of it was just singing. And again, I'm going to reiterate, Agony is probably my favorite song in the entire thing.
Amen to that.
Just the way it was delivered by the two. It was just fucking great.
Oh, best boy.
But there really isn't a lot that you can take from this and bring into dialogue.
You said everything I could say. Agony was the best song. I felt those lines were very witty, very funny. And you could see the true prince in that one line he says. And I think when I was listening to Emily Blunt's solo after she kissed the prince, you could feel the emotions in the lines she was singing about the struggle between the woods and being a mom, and it's a whole new thing, and she doesn't feel ready, but at the same time she does. She wants to be the best wife she can be. I really did like that. And Agony Man, I laughed so hard I almost fell out of my seat.
Every time I watched it, I don't know what it is, but that one song just gets you.
Ripping that shirt, it's just like agony, and then you see the other dude, oh shit, just like rips it. Let's go.
Just because his brother did, he's like, wait, what? Oh, okay.
Let's go. Scenery.
That got a 0.5.
You know, I've been sitting here thinking about it throughout when we were talking. I gave it a 0.75, but it is a 0.5.
Well, here's the thing. It's all dark scenes. I understand that it's supposed to be this eerie type feeling because these woods are dangerous, but where's the light? Even when the only time you see the light is after Cinderella and the prince get married. Even before then, in the baker's house, it's dark. In the woods, it's dark. In grandmother's house, it's dark. Everywhere they went, it was just eerie and too dark. It's just too dark. There are plenty of places that there could have been light. Really, all you saw in this was the castle, the woods, and the baker's bakery. There wasn't a lot to look at. It was just lackluster. There was so much they could have done, so much potential, so many things that could have been done to really bring out the story they're trying to portray, but it just wasn't delivered.
The lighting and color grade in this was very blue, very gray, and very like brown. You didn't see a lot of greens. You didn't see a lot of bright, sunny colors. It was trying to show that Grimm's Tale side of the thing. And I appreciate trying to keep the Grimm's feeling to it. I do. But this is not what I was wanting. This is dreadful. This is very colorless. It's very gloomy. It's very seldom. It doesn't work well. It's just muggy. The blacks were so deep in this film. The sceneries were just so rough. If I didn't see Cinderella get stuck on the stairs, I wouldn't have noticed that there was tar on there because it was so blended together.
Absolutely. Again, too dark. That should have been lit up. That was the castle. There should have been lights all along that entire walkway. But no, they just went dark.
Yeah, they had those little lights here and there, but it wasn't anything spectacular. They were trying to show off that golden dress. And
absolutely.
Anna Kendrick piping those numbers. Damn, she was great.
Oh yeah. She has an amazing voice. I fucking love it.
Yeah, voice 10 out of 10. But the color grading in this made the scenes just feel flat. It wasn't great. I understand you're in the woods, so it's not going to be sunny and always pretty. And it's like, there was nothing sunny and pretty outside the woods. There was nothing. You walked out of the woods, it looked sad, boring, dreary. The baker's town was the brightest thing in the room. Overall, just bad. Recommend.
I did give that a 1, but now that we've been talking, I'm actually going to drop it to a 0.75 because there's enough inconsistencies throughout that it just doesn't quite justify a 1. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It was fun. I loved how it had a bunch of different stories brought into one plot there at the end. But cinematography, acting was kind of lackluster up in there. The scenery was terrible. There's just enough in this to bring it down to a 0.75. I would still say go ahead and give it a watch. I enjoyed it. Most people that like musicals are going to enjoy it. But I do have to say the plays portray it better than the movie. In that aspect, I'm going to bring my 1 down to a 0.75.
My 0.5 is really on the cinematography and Meryl Streep. It was bad. Meryl Streep was great. Her voice was amazing. The acting was overdone. The cinematography, that was laughable. For a Disney film with that budget, it's laughable.
I completely agree. They could have done so much more.
Yeah, so much more. The plot, I wish this director went with the full play. The full play is such a better rendition of what the script was.
Well, that's the problem. When you put it into a film, you don't have the full rights of the play. You have to alter it. They don't have a choice.
Which sucks. It kills me. But the fact is that the play that I watched took out 20% of the original play because of the gore, the goriness of the play. They took it out because there's kids watching this. They wanted to be family friendly. And I still thought it was better than this movie. If you want to watch a musical that Disney did, go right ahead. They have other movies that are basically animated musicals that are kind of better. This film was okay. It wasn't anything standoutish. And when I look at this, I don't see this as a film I would go back to.
I do. I have seen this film a couple times. I like it. I enjoy it. There are those few things that bug me. The lighting is one of the big things.
And if you do like musicals, give it a shot. If you've never seen this, give it a shot. I've seen the play once live, and I do say you got to be really into musicals to enjoy this type of film. Overall, with the roller coaster of points I've been changing throughout this whole thing, I went to a 6.5.
I ended with a 7.25.
As we wrap up for this week, I want to talk about the next week's episode. I want to talk about the 2015 teen drama Paper Towns. Dude, that trailer, one of the best teen movie romance dramas I've seen in a while. This trailer was snappy. It was funny. The opening shot with the fact that the parents gave him the van. You drive it so much. Why don't you just take it? We'll give it to you. Thanks. It was witty. It was clever. It was very exciting. But you have to look at this. This is a teen romance film. You got to look at it straight value. I'm hoping for some humor. I'm hoping for some good jokes. I'm hoping for a great time. So I'm giving this a 7. So it can have a good or bad. It doesn't look terrible, but doesn't look like it's going to be a home run.
I'm pretty into this already because I saw some comedy in the trailer. The way he reacted to his parents giving him the van was great. His friend on his left, the shorter hair kid, he saying all this different stuff about wanting to sleep with his mom. I guess the main character's name is Quentin. He doesn't even say anything about it. He just and then walks away. I don't know. I think it's going to have a lot of comedy. I think it's going to be fun. I feel like the way that they portrayed this trailer brings out how much fun this story is going to be. It seems like some type of adventure that he's going to be going on. I'm not sure what it is, but with the way that they show it in the trailer, I think I'm going to rate this at about a 7.5. I feel like it's going to be fun, and I'm not having super high hopes, but there's still enough that it's not half and half.
I agree. As we wrap up, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning into this week's episode of Nerd Taku Podcast. If you want to follow us, we are both on Instagram and on Threads at nerd_taku_podcast. You can also find the podcast on all major streaming platforms, and we are on YouTube under Kingdom Note Studios. My name is Eli.
I'm Ben.
Hope you guys have a great week and take care.
See you guys next week.
Yo.